Layla and Captain Patter's Big Blue Journey. The morning sun peeked through the curtains in Layla's room. The tiny dust mites inside the room sparkled like little fairies dancing in the sunlight. Layla opened her eyes in her soft bed. First one eye, then the other. Today was not an ordinary day. Today was that special day circled in big red ink on Layla's calendar, the Big Ship Journey Day. Layla sprang out of bed like a bouncy spring. She immediately grabbed her favorite friend sitting at the head of her bed, her white plush seagull with an orange beak, Captain Patter. "Wake up, Captain Patter," she whispered. "The sea is waiting for us, we mustn't be late." In the middle of the room stood Layla's small, orange suitcase with wheels. Layla unzipped her suitcase, zip. Inside, she put her favorite fluffy bunny pajamas, her big straw hat to protect her from the sun, and of course, her favorite picture storybook to read at bedtime. When her mother entered the room, Layla was ready. As she dragged her orange suitcase toward the door, the wheels made a cheerful sound, clickety-clack, clickety-clack. The port was so crowded. People were rushing here and there, and real seagulls were singing in the sky, tweet tweet. Layla held her father's hand tightly. A smell she had never smelled before came to her nose. It was the smell of salty water and fresh wind. She took a deep breath. "Oh, it smells lovely like the sea, Captain Patter," she said. And then she saw it. Right in front of them stood a huge ship, as tall as an apartment building, painted in bright white and blue. The ship was so big that when Layla wanted to look up at the very top, her hat almost fell off backward. The tiny round windows lined up on the ship's body sparkled as if the ship had hundreds of eyes. Layla said in amazement, "This isn't just a ship, it's a giant palace floating on the sea." They walked across a long white bridge to get on the ship. The water under the bridge rippled in green and blue colors. When they stepped onto the ship, a thick, strong, friendly voice, like thunder but much nicer, came from the ship's chimney. Toot! Toot! The sound was so strong that it tickled Layla's tummy. She hugged Captain Patter. "Don't be scared, Patter," she said. "The ship is just clearing its throat and saying, 'Welcome,' to us." The inside of the ship was even more interesting than the outside. The floors were covered in soft, navy blue carpets that your feet sank into when you walked. The corridors were very long, and lamps shining like crystals hung from the ceiling. Layla and her family found the room they would stay in, their cabin. When they opened the cabin door, Layla ran inside with joy. This room was tiny but very cute. It had bunk beds, a tiny closet, and the best part, a round window on the wall called a porthole. Layla immediately took off her shoes, climbed onto the bed, and looked out the round window. The sea was right outside. The water seemed like it wanted to touch the glass, approaching and then pulling back. Splish splash, splish splash. The ship began to move slowly. Layla waved to the people, cars, and buildings at the port. "Goodbye, land. We are going to travel on the water for a while," she said. The people, cars, and trees got smaller and smaller, until they looked like tiny toys and finally disappeared. Now, everything was deep blue. After unpacking their things, they went up to the top floor of the ship, the deck. It was windy here. The wind blew through Layla's curly hair and caressed her cheeks. Whoosh, whoosh. The sound of the wind rang in Layla's ears like a song. Her mother tied Layla's hat on tightly. Layla held onto the railings at the edge of the ship and looked down at the sea. As the ship cut through the water, it left white foam behind. The foam looked just like whipped cream spilled on the sea. Just then, Layla saw a grey back in the water. Then another one. "Look, Mummy," shouted Layla. A dolphin shining like silver jumped out of the water. Hop! It drew an arch in the air and dived back into the water. Splash! Then a smaller dolphin, which must have been the baby, jumped up. Hop! The dolphins seemed to be racing the ship. They swam beside the ship, sometimes popping out of the water and making sounds as if to say hello to Layla. Layla watched the dolphins until they were gone. She held Captain Patter's wing and made him wave at the dolphins. Time had flowed by like water. A little rumble was heard from Layla's tummy, rumble rumble. "I think my tummy has started working like the ship's engine," said Layla, giggling. They went to the dining hall. The tables were covered with snow-white tablecloths. The forks and spoons shone brightly. The waiter brought Layla a special plate with pictures of ships on it. Layla drank her warm tomato soup. Slurp, slurp, slurp. The soup was so delicious that it warmed her up inside. Then she broke off a piece of freshly baked bread. The bread was crunchy. Crunch, crunch. While eating her dinner, she looked out the window. The sun was setting now. The sky was painted orange, pink, and purple. The sea had taken the colors of the sky and now looked dark blue and purple. As Layla ate her strawberry pudding for dessert, she felt the ship rocking gently. This rocking wasn't scary at all. On the contrary, it was peaceful, like rocking in her mother's lap. To the right. To the left. Gently, gently. After dinner, it was completely dark. Layla and her father went outside one last time to get some fresh air. Layla looked up and her mouth fell open. "Woo," she said quietly. She had never seen so many stars in the city. The sky looked like black velvet fabric with thousands of diamonds sprinkled on it. The stars were so bright, it felt like she could reach out, grab one, and put it in her pocket. Mr. Moon had drawn a silver path on the sea. The moonlight shimmered on the water, and the waves gently hit the ship's body. Shhhhhh. Hush! The sea was singing a lullaby to everyone on the ship, saying, "Sleep, sleep." Layla's eyelids started to get heavy. She yawned. Yarv. They went back to their cabin. Layla put on her bunny pajamas. She took Captain Patter with her. She brushed her teeth. She smiled at her reflection in the mirror. When she got into bed, she pulled the quilt up to her chin. Her pillow was so soft. The ship continued to rock gently on the sea, like a giant cradle. Her mother came to her bedside, stroked her hair. "Good night, my little sailor," she said and planted a kiss on her cheek. Layla looked at the moonlight leaking through the round window. She closed her eyes. Now, in her dreams, she would see dolphins jumping on clouds made of foam, silver-colored waves, and seagulls with orange beaks. The ship continued on its way, and Layla had already set sail in the Sea of Dreams. Sound asleep. Magical dreams. The end.